Hey everybody, and welcome to RadarPlays Retro, and this is, oh my god, one of my favorites, X-Men for the arcade in 1992. That looks kind of ugly, I have to say. I'm here with
Lorenzo Valoria
and Ryan Telgenik.
And now let's press start and get a-going.
I just love the super detailed hair drawings on Wolverine's arms.
Oh man, these animations are really
We're going to go with the
gross.
6-player cabinet.
Look at Blob, look at his
USA
face.
ROM. Normal, let's start from the stage.
Yeah, there we go. All right. So,
let's see, I'm going to go with Wolverine.
Cyclops.
Oh man.
I gotta say, the last time I played this was in a nice business called Skateland.
Oh, look at that stuff.
The old school arcades.
So first off, as a X-Men fan, it really annoyed me that like Magneto was controlling Sentinels because they are not friends.
No.
They're actually
Sentinels capture mutants.
And this vision of New York City being destroyed by Sentinels is pretty extreme. Go and save the city. So they did have to re-record the voices, the classic voices for this game. But it's still, it's as bad as you remember, just, you know, a new guy trying to do it as bad. It's also fortunate that so I recently wrote an article about characters we're sick of fighting. And one of them is robots. Because superheroes can't kill anybody, but they do have to destroy 5,000 enemies in any video game they're in.
Right.
So they gotta be robots.
Yeah, mass produced. Yeah.
But fortunately, yeah, at least for the X-Men, they have a bunch of robots, enemies to fight.
Very true, because it's always really weird to me when you start having superhero games that fight robots that never really existed in the fiction.
Yeah, especially the worst offender recently was the Amazing Spider-Man game, technically based on the movie, but had $1 trillion robots tearing apart New York City, which...
Of course,
was
that did not go well.
That was in a bad place. So
I don't think the X-Men ever had man-sized Sentinels, though.
They shake it up a bit. Well, they didn't have ones of this design of dudes. Like, why would a Sentinel carry a bazooka? He'd just have a gun.
They had like Nimrod. He was kind of a man-sized.
Yeah, Nimrod wouldn't have it. All right. So anyway, but what? a little bit of history here, guys. Did you know? First off, did you know this is actually based on a cartoon?
No.
It's not. They didn't just make it up based on any old X-Men.
No, I didn't.
So I love that. I love that animation of Wolverine standing over a dude and stabbing him.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It was based on the pilot for the X-Men, for an X-Men cartoon called Pride of the X-Men.
Oh yeah, Pride of the X-Men. I used to have that VHS.
It was a great. Oh, it was a VHS favorite. I love that VHS. But you see, a little backstory there is that Marvel really wanted to make an X-Men cartoon, or they wanted someone else to make it. So to entice people to make the show, Marvel themselves paid for a very expensive, or relatively expensive, 30-minute pilot of what the Saturday morning cartoon would be. And so it had the lineup of, you know, classic characters like Cyclops, Wolverine,
the
Colossus. Well, see, that's the
Was she in it? She was in it.
Yeah, and she's in this game as well. Sorry, I choked on my spittle at the thought of the Dazzler.
Spittle? I'm glad that you at least said spittle, because then we would think less of you.
Yes, Dazzler's in it too. So, yeah, the cartoon and the game have all these classic X-Men: Storm, Nightcrawler, Cyclops, Colossus, and Wolverine. But to get another lady into the mix, they put in Dazzler on the show. I think what happened why she's in this game is because Konami specifically got the rights to the X-Men cartoon, that X-Men cartoon, and based it all on that. Because you fight all the people they fight in the Pride of the X-Men cartoon as well. Pyro, White Queen, Blob, all those
really
jokers. Cool. So yeah, that explains why they have such a specific mix of characters, because they're not dressed like how they were in the 90s comics either.
Right.
Yeah, that cartoon was awesome too. They go to Asteroid M and
it had everything.
They do everything, yeah.
Well, and also like you know, in this game, Xavier looks like he does in that show, and he's sitting beside him is the young Kitty Pryde, who would later become a full-fledged member of the team, but was just 14 when the show was on. Or 16, I forget. Actually, she has a lot. It's worth looking it up on YouTube just because, like, the acting in it, the voice acting is terrible. The animation is great, but the voice acting is terrible. Like, Kitty Pryde says, like, "Don't talk to me like that. I am 16 years old." And then Cyclops just goes like, "I'm Cyclops." And Wolverine is Australian. It's like, "Let's throw another shrimp on the barbie, mate." But also, Wolverine hates Kitty Pryde. He doesn't want her as a member of the team.
Aren't they homies later on, though?
Oh, yeah. Well, he never has any real care for her in the comics, I think. But in the...
Wolverine does like the young girls of the team.
Hey, now. But yeah, she...
Watch what I'm suggesting.
Well, like with Jubilee, definitely.
Yeah, Jubilee, yeah.
But in the show, he goes like, "Kids, we don't need to hanging around here." Look it up, it's great.
Ah, yes, one of the old elevator levels with moving laser guns attached to them.
Can't have a beat 'em up without it.
And the opening song to the show is X-Men, save the day. X-Men coming your way.
So funny.
So good. Yeah, such a great. It looks much better than any of the crappy like Spider-Man and his Amazing Friends cartoons.
Oh, those are pretty awful.
Where was the first place you guys ever played this game?
If
ever you had
Probably
multiple.
Chuck E. Cheese.
Aladdin's Castle. That would be my local Aladdin's Castle.
And it was
What
always
is Aladdin's Castle?
It was always the two CRT screens that had like one with faded colors and.
Yep.
Did you guys not have Aladdin's Castle?
No.
Oh, what
It
the
was
hell
owned
is
by
that?
Namco. It was their collection of arcades, and my local mall, that was the one. Aladdin's Castle was the name of it. It always had the hottest new Namco stuff, thanks to it being Namco. But this was there. And this, along with the Turtles, the original Turtles arcade machine and the Simpsons arcade machine, like Konami totally owned all my quarters.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you know what made this one different from the Turtles or the Simpsons?
What's that?
Do you guys? Well, it's right in front of your face. It was widescreen, 6 players in some cabinets. Some were 6-player cabinets, some were 4-player cabinets.
Yeah, that was the
We only had a
dual
4-player
CRT
cabinet.
screens.
Yeah, they would have
Yeah.
two CRT TVs up next to each other with some like mirrors were involved in some way. And yeah, so it was like widescreen before there was widescreen, but not at current actual widescreen aspect ratio, as you can see here. But it felt pretty neat. I like that.
We just had the 4-player cabinet at Skateland, the ultimate
Oh, I
skating
feel
adventure.
so bad for you. You were deprived. They totally ripped off these enemies from Aliens, I feel like.
Did you guys have Chuck E. Cheese's when you were
Yeah,
kids?
we did. Actually,
Yeah.
that is where all the gangs in Flint hang out now.
Well, actually,
okay.
my local area first had Showbiz Pizzas, and then they became Chuck E.
Showbiz
Cheese's when
Pizza?
Showbiz got bought out.
Wow.
Showbiz actually predates Chuck E. Cheese, and Chuck E. Cheese actually kind of ripped off Showbiz.
Did they have a cartoon mouse too?
No, they had a country bear with a banjo.
Oh, yeah. No, we had a place
You've
like
probably
that, too.
seen the country bear appears around.
We had a place like that, too, but it was called Huckleberry Junction.
Huckleberry Junction, huh?
Yes, sir.
Nice shot.
Thanks. It was like Chuck E. Cheese. Does Chuck E. Cheese serve alcoholic beverages?
They do not.
Because Huckleberry Junction was Chuck E. Cheese, but they did serve alcoholic beverages. So the parents would go to drink while the kids would beg for money and lose all their quarters in arcade games and games to get tickets to buy neat prizes.
That's pretty awesome. I've been to Chuck E. Cheese way too many times just for like nephews' birthdays and things, and I wish they had some alcohol.
Did you see they recently redesigned Chucky?
Yeah,
No, I did not.
he's like more extreme.
He's way more extreme.
Yeah, I mean, because I remember there was a point where he was into
Nothing
extreme.
moves the blob. Nothing moves the... Nothing moves the... No.
Now we just punch him in the face while he sits on the ground. Oh crap!
Here, I'll do this. There you go.
Ah, Nightcrawler's down.
Yeah, it's
All
sad
right.
for the blob that his superpower is fatness.
Oh.
It's just in a low center of gravity. It's a goofy cudgel.
It's so funny.
Yeah, speaking of Showbiz Pizza, if you guys want a crash course in Showbiz Pizza, I think it's still on Netflix Instant. There's a movie called Rockafire Explosion, which, oh
heard
man,
of
it is amazing. So, you know how at Chuck E. Cheese's, they would have those, the animatronic dudes singing and dancing?
Uh-huh.
Well, Showbiz pioneered that, and their band was the Rockafire Explosion.
Oh.
And so this documentary finds like the guy who created the Rockafire Explosion and built it, and also the biggest super fans of Rockafire Explosion in the world, including one of the super fans who actually married the inventor.
Oh my God.
And
That's
oh my,
insane.
the people they got on it, like they are just they. Oh,
He's bleeding.
Magneto should have knocked him unconscious before he could tell everybody about it. Oh, see, even they got the Magneto design from the cartoon because his hands are naked instead of wearing his usual purple clothes. Here we are in the Savage Land. Good old Savage Land.
Did you guys play the X-Men game that came out on? I played it on Genesis.
Oh yeah, the
Adamantium Wars?
It was just called X-Men.
Yeah, I think it was just called X-Men.
Didn't most of it take place in the Danger Room?
Yeah, so the whole thing about that was the Danger Room goes haywire, and you have to go through all the memorable locations of the X-Men show.
Yeah.
And Savage Land is in there.
Yeah.
Did you ever beat
It was
that,
the first
Ryan?
level, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was one that demanded a Game Genie, I think.
No, that was a tough one, man. That game was hard.
So there's this one part, right, where you're in Mojo's area. Where is it? What's that called?
Murder World.
Yeah. So you're running around there. You're fighting like sentinels and stuff. And then right when you beat it, you go back to the Danger Room, and like there's just this message that says you need to reset the computer. And I never beat that. 10 years later, I was talking to one of my friends about that game, and he said, "Oh yeah, and you have to press the reset button on the Genesis." I'm like,
my
"What?"
God. That's so
Who
cheap.
would think to do that?
Man.
You would never know.
Are you kidding me? So I never beat that game, but I loved
God,
it.
I still remember the music from the Savage Land stage.
You know what I didn't like about that game was that it punished Wolverine took damage for using his claws. I think.
Yeah.
Which,
It drained his health.
It's BS. Like Wolverine wouldn't do that. It doesn't. He heals.
He did heal if you had your claws in, though.
See, in the old, yeah.
That's still just kind of silly.
Yeah.
In the olden days of
I
video
didn't
games,
think
his regenerating health, putting that in a game would be cheap. Like in this game, it would be cheap, or it would mean you wouldn't use up your quarters and they wouldn't make any money off you.
Yeah.
Right?
But in today's age of regenerating health, he is the perfect hero. He is the hero we need and deserve. Stab, stab, stab.
Well, there was that X-Men Origins.
That
Wolverine
was such
game.
a good game.
That was a good game. It was
But
a good game.
Never
could have
played
been
it.
great.
I like Nightcrawler's jumping.
He's just breaking
just
their
like-
spine in
yeah.
half.
Oh,
Oh, those bees are fun.
It should have been a better game. It was only good.
I'm gonna use up all my lasers.
Well, yeah, this is one of these bullshit games where to use your special power uses health. So
That's why I've died so many times, by the way.
that was
That's the only reason.
so I beat it. Yeah, when I beat this game, it was on either my birthday or my little brother's birthday, because those would be the days of like mom would just say, "All right, you'll just have all the quarters you want." Or well, really, it wasn't like we couldn't have $500 in quarters, but
Right.
money, within reason, we could have some quarters. So we just parked in front of the X-Men arcade machine, and when we would lose, we'd just be like, quarters, tokens. And Mom would make with the tokens.
What a nice lady.
And that's how we eventually beat Magneto at the end, because really you just have to kind of just
You just have to
overwhelm him without
him
being able to
quarters.
die. Yeah. And that's how we got to see the cinematic finale.
I never did finish it. You know why? Because I got grounded from this game.
Grounded
and every
from
game
this game?
at Skateland.
Oh.
Because I thought I would write a novel about based loosely on the Child's Play series of films, and it was called Killer Baby. And I used to draw this little baby.
Oops.
Hey.
I used to draw him all the time, and he was my character that I made. And basically, I wrote the first chapter, and it had a lot
here's
of
the
bad
classic
words.
quote.
This is the best. Yes. Okay,
so good.
continue your story.
Oh, well, I was
wanna
in
hear the
fifth
end of the
grade,
story.
and I wrote a chapter of this novel, and it was very racy. It was very
this is
not
at
something
age
you want your
what?
parents to find. But me, worried that my parents would find it anyways, decided to try and fake them out by rewriting the chapter without all the swear words and placing it on the front table, on the dining room table. That way, my parents would read it and they'd be like, "Oh, this is just a totally normal story about a baby that killed his whole family." In fact, In fact, all it did was make them extremely concerned. My mom told me, well, I was grounded for months, but my mom told me years later that they locked their door at night because they were afraid that it was me channeling my, I guess they thought I was angry or something.
Yeah.
But no, in reality, I was just trying to make a really cool book about a
Killer baby.
killer baby. Yeah.
Wow, man, that is some story.
Yeah, well, because I used to play this game every time we'd go to Salem. This is all I wanted to play. This and Area 51. And yeah, I didn't get to play for several months.
You guys are. I was gonna tell a story about Wendigo, but the guy we're fighting now. But that was too good a story.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. I love this. So great.
I never understood this until now.
What?
Wavy.
That's
why
his
there's
mental.
why there's a floating Professor X.
It's because he has mental powers.
Yeah.
Come on. These guys are ripping off Iron Man's body style.
Oh yeah.
But all right, let's see. I want to see if we can beat. I think it's the White Queen that's next, I believe. Let's see if we can beat her before we end this. All right, these guys popping out of the ground, by the way, those are based on Krakoa, the villain from giant-sized X-Men #1.
Huh.
He's a famous villain because there wouldn't be, everybody likes the cool X-Men like Wolverine and Colossus and Storm. But the crummy, well, not crummy, but original X-Men of Cyclops, Beast, Iceman, and Angel and Jean Grey, nobody liked them. And they got replaced by those new characters in the 70s in a book called Giant Size X-Men. And the story was they got kidnapped by a living island named Krakoa. The original X-Men did.
Oh, really?
A living island.
Yep, living island that would pop up out of the ground and yell at people and be like, "I'm gonna kill you." And they kidnapped the X-Men.
Wow.
Though also, so the giant-sized X-Men, though, the new team of X-Men was meant to be an international committee of X-Men. That's why you've got a Canadian Wolverine, you got German Nightcrawler, Russian Colossus, African Storm, the Japanese member Sunfire. He left pretty soon. The Irish Banshee, or was he Scottish? Sorry if I forget. And then lastly, there was Thunderbird, the Native American stereotype, who I think was very well-meaning when he first came out, but now just seems kind of bad. Because God, this asshole with the bats, Jesus,
So annoying.
Anyway,
Like punch.
Thunderbird was always like, I don't want to help you, white men. You destroyed my family. Like, I don't know. It was just always cheesy. Not that he didn't have a point. He was right.
That is really cheesy.
But I don't know. There's better ways to write the Native American.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting cave elevator that we just took.
Yeah, they put a lot of elevators in this cave in the Savage Land. So yeah, at the same time, this came out at like the peak of X-Men fever. Like in 1992 is when the X-Men #1 came out, that Jim Lee did the cover for, and it like was the best-selling comic of all time for about 20 years, I think, before a Walking Dead issue replaced it.
Oh wow.
Walking Dead 100, but really the deal with Walking Dead 100 was they released so many different covers for it that eventually just everybody bought all the different covers. That
And it still counted as just one issue.
Well, that in Walking Dead's defense, that's exactly what the X-Men did at the time too. They put it out with 8 covers. And everybody's like, oh, each of these covers is going to be worth $1 million in like 5 years, which did not happen.
$1 million.
I cannot look at all these X-Men or the Sentinels. I cannot wait to see real Sentinels in that next X-Men movie.
Oh yeah. Awesome.
The Days of Future Past.
Days of Future Past.
Looks so cool. It's also one of the best X-Men stories ever. Did this game, Ryan, make you want to read X-Men comic books?
So
There's Kitty Pryde, by the way. Is it?
Oh, I just got punched right in the head. I've actually never been a huge comic book person. I don't know why. I don't really have a good reason.
All right.
It's just never been a thing that's interested in me. I always watched the shows and I would play all the games, but I never, never followed the comics.
That's sad. I feel sad for you.
I feel sad for me too.
I
too busy writing about
a few comics.
He's too busy writing about murder babies.
Murder babies. Scaring your parents.
Killer babies.
Killer babies to read comic books. I think this guy's supposed to look kind of like Ultron, but I don't think he is Ultron. Like, it's no Ultron design I recognize, but I mean his face is kind of Ultron-y.
I'm still a huge fan of old school beat 'em up boss designs when they start blinking. When
I love the blinking, and then they really start to blink. I think that was a Konami thing. Like they popularized it.
So really, the trick is to alternate your specials, right?
Well, but it uses up.
I'll sacrifice myself for the greater good.
What's happening?
That's
quite an epic
in half,
explosion, I have to
It
say.
was just his legs.
Yeah, all right. Hey, kitty, we're going to save you.
Oh, ho, ho.
You must rescue the professor.
Okay.
Well, we'll have to rescue the professor another day because we've reached the end of this Radar Plays. God, this was a fun one. I could play this for another like 20 minutes, which is about as long as the game is. But anyway, you know, keep watching on our YouTube channel. Comment on this. Keep watching more Radar Plays whenever we post them every Wednesday. Until next time, X-Men, welcome to die!